ErgoSummit mining video. I'm QX, and with me we have a Sigmanaut, Fred. Fred, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good, good. So Fred came to the Sigmanaut program. Oh gosh, I'm not even going to try to remember, Fred, months ago. Um, kind of as an outside figure. He was on his application. He said that he was, did some hobbyist mining, and he wanted to kind of be more involved in the Sigmanauts. So he started out as a SigCan, I believe, and then showed more interest and was promoted to a Sigmanaut, which is absolutely fantastic. But the really cool thing, I think, is that when we think of mining in Ergo or mining in general, we tend to forget that miners are kind of this hidden part of the ecosystem, the crypto chain. They're not necessarily always in chat checking around. One example, I was talking to you earlier about it, Fred, is that I was in the Herominers Telegram chat, and there were some people not asking about Ergo, but saying, oh, when's this pull back up, or when's this happening? So they've obviously been mining Ergo for a while. And I clicked on their name to see, oh, hey, they must be in some of the Ergo chats that I'm in. Nope, zero Ergo chats. So I think that's a common thing that we don't think about, is that a lot of these miners are mining to mine. They might not know about the token. They just maybe look at that profit lens right there with that lens and go from there. But I think it's really awesome that as a miner, Fred, you jumped into the ecosystem, became a Sigmanaut. So I gotta give you a little clap for that. So let's start out, Fred. What'd you start mining on? What's your rig? What's your hobbyist rig?
Yeah, so I've got 8 RTX 3080s. They are the light hash rate ones, so they're not that beefy. But yeah, I started on Ethereum, and when they moved to proof of stake, then everyone was doing the mad dash, the chicken dance, to try to find out where they're going to try to recoup their investment. And I landed on Ergo because I was subscribed to Red Panda Mining, and he was talking about it for a little bit, and then he quickly moved on, as many people did at that time. And I decided to really look under the hood. It started with the manifesto, and then I really liked the mission that Ergo has. And after that, I stayed. I've just been learning more and more. As I was telling you, I probably don't know as much as a lot of really crypto heads, but look at it this way. When I started, I had been coming off of renting properties, and then I got out of that because that was way too much effort. The idea is that you just kind of want to set something up and forget it. The miners just want to set up their rigs. They don't even want to go in there and check, make sure the AC is running. They just want to get their money back and then make money. So, I think it is a different situation where I decided to, learn more about the platform. And, that's a testament to what Ergo is, the fact that, they were able to take someone completely who just doesn't want to really think about much of anything, and I've become a part of the community.
That's the amazing thing too, because we've had we were trying to, I'd say a couple months ago, we're talking in chat on how to engage miners more. And one of the things we did is Noah went out and got a ton of chats for all the mining pools. Like, here's a Telegram for this mining pool, here's a Discord for this mining pool. Because we figured, as I discovered when I was in Herominers mining chat, is that they're not really, as you said, you're not really engaged in the community. You're essentially looking at how much hash rate can this cryptocurrency, how much profit can this cryptocurrency get me for my hash rate and my electricity rate. And if it doesn't do that, then you just point your gun at some other place, right? You just throw your hash rate somewhere else.
I mean, if you're looking to just sell whatever you're mining right away, then you just want to, hopefully break even. If not, the idea is to make money. But if you have the ability to, kind of take a loss for a while, which, honestly, that might be what's happening right now. But if you're able to do that, and you can go ahead and look at the projects that you think are going to go up big, when we get into the next, what do we want to call it, mania phase, then you're not so limited by what you can mine.
I gotcha. So Fred, what you said that you kind of stayed out of the community before, but the manifesto kind of drew you in, and then the Sigmanauts sucked you in even more there and trapped you. What was your community involvement like in when you were mining ETH? Were there communities to join to or talk to? Were there devs you could speak to with issues? Were people helpful in chats with that kind of thing when you ask questions?
I mean, I really came in very late into 2021. So I mean, I have not been, I think, in crypto for a very long, relatively speaking. And it was like the peak of the peak of the mania, the second top. That's when I came in. So I mean, by the time I got my rig set up and running, I think I mined 2 ETH total, which is cool, but I am still way, way, way far from breaking even on all those cards. But no, I never found my way into like an Ethereum community. I assume they have one somewhere.
So Fred, can I ask you, I might have to cut this out too. Can I ask you what mining pool sparks your interest in, what mining pool you're mining to right now?
Oh God, I was mining to 2 miners for a little bit. Nano pool. I tried solo mining Erg, but
You should be able to do it with 1.6 gigahash.
I never found a share. I think I quit after like 6 weeks.
6 weeks and no show. Oh, you poor bastard. Oh, wow. Oof. That's a long time to wait.
But I mean, I think you need like 2% of the total hash rate for it to be viable. And I don't think 1.6 is anywhere near 2%. I don't know. That's just something I read.
Interesting. Wow, 6 weeks without a hit. That's rough. Well, props to you for sticking by there. My goodness. So that is, I think it's a good time you did mention 2 miners, right?
Yeah.
Let me bring this up. Ergo. I want to show everybody this. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen, Fred, as soon as this loads. Okay, let's do this. There's no better time than now to show people this. So we have right here, we're looking at the essential ranking chart for who has all the hash. So we're looking at 21.94 terahash. I don't even know if that's accurate. Let's see. Let's see from our chart. 22.66 hash rate. So who knows? It might be delayed. Oh, no, we're good. There we go. So you're looking that 2 miners has a huge chunk of that hash rate. So I think it's a good time to let people know that this does not mean that you're going to be getting more and more tokens just by mining with them. Some people may be confused about that. So it's very, very beneficial to the network for decentralization to go somewhere else, to drop it down to some other pool that might have less users, but not as much hash rate, to prevent those 51% attacks, as far as that goes, possibility where somebody owns the majority, one pool owns the majority of the hash rate. So I know that I use Herominers. It's a pretty decent, let's see, I'll show you right here. I cleared my wallet so you don't see my stuff, but very easy, simple backend page. It shows you the current full network hash rate of Erg. They even have a domain specific, third level domain for that, pre-domain, whatever they call it. And then they have your own stats here. I'm running a single 3090. And I think that speaks to the point that anybody can mine, essentially, even with just their one gaming rig. That's the beauty of Ergo. You got a 3090 and you're not playing games, and it's not your work computer, let it mine when you're not playing games, kind of thing. So I fired this up again with this wallet before the video, and you can see it shows me that monthly I should get about 10 erg. Weekly I'll get about 2.2 with that. So yours is probably, let's see, 5, 4, 6. There's probably 6 times that. You're probably getting 12, 13 erg a week, Fred, I think.
Yeah, I get 5 erg about every 3 days. Yeah,
Awesome.
3 to 4 days.
So then it tells you your worker name, your hash rates for the X amount of times, as well as the recent block rewards, which, hey, yeah, we're at 39. So that being said, let me show you quickly how your basic person runs it. Now, what do you use, Fred? Do you use HiveOS to run this, to run your rig?
I'm using HiveOS.
HiveOS. So that runs on, like, do you have one frame unit with a board and all your cards stuck in it?
Yeah. So I have one motherboard that is running all 8 cards. Yeah.
Unless you want to show your HiveOS interface, Fred, I can show them for anybody. This is kind of targeting people who have maybe just a basic gaming rig and they want to secure the network and maybe make a few erg in the back end once in a while. Let me see. So what I did, let me get my window ready. There we go. So I'm running a Windows box downstairs. It looks like this right here. And essentially I downloaded a program called TREX, which I use because I have an NVIDIA card. And it comes with all these kind of pre-made bat files. And I'm choosing Herominers. And all you have, it's so, I mean, it couldn't be easier to mine this, to do this. You edit the bat file and you put in your address that you want your funds to go to for mining. You put in your whatever you want to name your rig. It can be Fred C, it could be Fred J, Fred P, Fred Rig 1, Fred Rig 2, that kind of thing. Whatever you want there. It's not even a login for that. This stuff should all be populated. There are some commands you can put before this to tell it to run like the first video card or 2 video cards in the system. If you have an integrated video card, you might want to run the discrete one instead. So you might choose a GPU 0 or GPU 1 instead, or not make it mine 1. So there are a couple app options you can set there. And then all you do is you double click on that puppy. And let's make this bigger. It's got to reach out, find it. It's got to authorize, look for some shares, and it should start mining momentarily. But I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that, Fred, does it?
Yeah, no, I mean, so that's for people who don't want to deal with like a mining solution software like Hive.
You got it. So that's for somebody who you hear Joe, if you listen to the AMAs, you hear Joe talk about, how Ergo is really in the hands of the everyday miner as far as that goes. And, we're not going to prevent people, with people who have funds to buy, like you have eight GPUs, Fred. So you have your 1.6 gigahash is going to waste my 250 mega hash, tiny compared to yours. But the idea is the numbers and the distribution. So if you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people with these gaming rigs, extra rigs, you can essentially secure a network with a massive number of people running, just extra time on their video card, as opposed to something like Bitcoin, which you're using ASIC miners like crazy. You have these massive factories that are mining this stuff, and the individual user doesn't feel like essentially they have much of a say as far as that goes. So I think that's the beauty of Ergo, that I can come in with the extra machine I have sitting downstairs. You can come in with 8 video cards that you purchased and keep on adding them to it. And we both have a decent say in the ecosystem, where we can, if there's a change in the code and we want to support it, then we point our mining rig towards that pool, or we point it to another pool kind of thing. And I really feel like even with one card, 250 mega hash, that I have a semi decent say in the system.
Nice. And are you running a node too, or?
Oh yeah, I run a node. I run a couple nodes. I run an Explorer instance as well, the graphical interface as well. So yeah, I'm pretty deep in, Fred.
That's something I didn't look into so much. Like, isn't there some sort of if you are solo mining and
You
running a
can.
node, you get like a discount or something?
No, not a discount. I think that has to do with speed and receiving the shares. So that may help you a tiny bit, maybe, but don't quote me on that. But for testnet, I was running testnet for a while, and on that I ran my own node. I ran Stratum on top of that node, and then I pointed my miner to my own nodes. So that was a pain in the ass, and I don't recommend it for anybody. I mean, we're talking about you're running like, command line all the time, and something breaks and you're scratching your head for an hour and a half to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
nothing's
So
easy. We were talking about this before, nothing's easy, but you hear on these summits that they're trying to make it so that you can run a node from like your smart TV or something. I don't know what project that is, if you know about that.
you got it, Fred. You got it. So with Nipapals, and you can bootstrap with very little memory requirements, storage requirements. So you could run a node on your fridge, on your phone. Rustin, actually, one of the Sigmanauts, already has a node running on one of his pretty robust Android phones. It just takes up a lot of space. So by bootstrapping in Nipapals, you can really get that footprint down to a couple gigabytes as opposed to 16 or 17 gigabytes on your drive. So yes, you can run a node on these small devices, which is really cool. All right. Anything else you want to add? Any suggestions for somebody that is watching this video and doesn't mind, but maybe they have a Razer laptop with a 3070 or a 3080 in it, and they're interested in doing it?
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, I'll just keep it short and sweet. Just do it. It's a little bit of a learning curve, just like anything. You have to learn how to ride a bike, but then once you know how to ride a bike, you just you get on for the rest of your life, and it's something you know how to do. Why not invest in yourself and learn how to do something?
That's great, Fred. Can't say it any better. I think it's a good place to end it.
Okay, take care, Andre.
All
I'll go take care of these babies. Have a great ErgoSummit, everyone, and a great 4th of July.
right. Thanks. You too, Fred. Okay, so that was a little mix on kind of the basic hobbyist miner, kind of the spirit of Ergo, where everybody can mine with their gaming PC or a couple cards in a rig. We're going to try to dive a little bit into a deeper end here with our friend and amazing coder, Cheese Enthusiast. How you doing, Cheese?
Hey, how you been?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
No, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So for those of you that don't know, Cheese has a special place in my heart for the project that he worked on before this, that I just want to talk a little bit about for historical purposes and where things have come from. And that would be GitBlock. Cheese, do you mind talking a little bit about what GitBlock was, kind of what it provided, and what happened to it?
Right. So to start off, GitBlock, it was actually beginning before I had even joined it. It was sort of a mining platform for people to rent different GPUs and hash rate out so that they could mine without actually owning their own GPU. Once I joined, I started working on this idea of a smart pool, which is essentially a decentralized mining pool that's working based off of smart contracts. Now, around, I believe, Ergo Hack 2, I had submitted a project called subpooling. And that was this idea that with these smart contract mining pools, we can create different smaller pools that are all connected, and they'll be able to kind of leverage the benefits of using smart contracts. For one, the payment system was all decentralized. So you could always be sure that you were getting paid exactly for the shares that you produce. And two, it had other benefits involving tokens. So miners would be able to mine tokens and receive them in exchange for Erg or in addition to Erg.
So
So
can I sum that up real quick for those people who may have joined and not known about that? So one of the cool things too that you guys did at GetBlock is that not only could I mine a subpool of, let's take Neta. So you're essentially mining Erd, but there's a swap and you receive Neta. You could also have you integrated some rewards into the system as well, where if you held a certain amount of NFTs, you'd get a bonus in that subpool that you mined to. So it was a really really cool in that you could integrate that in. So essentially your API would, or you check an API that would broadcast to you who had what NFT in their wallet. And then when you did the payouts, there would be bonuses based on those kind of holdings, which was super, super cool to mix in with those subpools you had. Sorry, geez, keep going.
right. So those are sort of the benefits of subpools. And I think another one that we had was this idea of proof of vote. So around the time, I believe EIP 27, which was about the emission reduction, around the time that came out, I had this idea that we could use subpools to distribute voting tokens for miners to be able to kind of decide which way the entire GetBlock mining pool would be able to vote on EIP 27. So that was another thing, and that was sort of just another benefit of using smart pools and subpools, and that we could give miners more of a voice rather than the pool itself in terms of all these EIPs. Besides that,
was that ever implemented, Cheese, the subpooling voting?
oh yeah, that was implemented. That was implemented for EIP 27.
So how'd that work as a whole? You were able to let, I mean, because with those votings where the whole pool in general, the whole hash rate is pointing towards a specific build of code base. How do you? So that just allowed you to divide the vote. I mean, and how's the decision made? It's still made based on essentially the collective, whoever is the majority winner there.
Right. So it was whoever, there was essentially two options, yes or no, for EIP 27. And all these voting tokens were distributed to everybody on GetBlock. At some point, we had some voting contracts out where people could vote yes or no. And then after a certain deadline, no more votes could be taken in. And we had the system in place using smart contracts where the pool, meaning us, as in the administrators of GetBlock, we were incentivized to follow whatever vote was on the smart contract, whether it be yes or no. And that essentially ensured that we followed the voice of the miners on our pool. We follow the voice of the people, I guess.
And transparently as well, if I might
Right.
add. Very cool. Very cool. So what happened to GetBlock and the kind of innovative ideas that they had with all that stuff, and where's the code base now?
Right. So around, say, the end of last year, definitely the sort of there's been some economic hardships in general across the economy, and it was getting very tough to sort of support GetBlock with all of its infrastructure needs, and just in general, the costs was not justifying the output from GetBlock. So we ended up having to close down the mining pool. And with that, a lot of the current smart pools that were on Ergo had to close down as well. Essentially, all these projects were refunded their tokens, and we kind of gracefully shut down our operations. Yep. Go ahead.
That was a sad day. I remember being very sad that announcement. Well, so is any of that code available if somebody were to want to get a hold of that kind of smart pool idea again, where you could have, take a total of hash rate, that's divided up amongst a couple different subpools that are mining for the benefit, as opposed to where you could mine for ErgoPad, you could mine for Net, or you could mine for Comet, essentially, as opposed to just mining for Erg, as far as that goes. Is that code available for anybody to hop on and maybe test out?
Yeah, all of our code was open source, and I believe it's still on the GetBlock repo. It's visible. So if you want to go to GetBlock on GitHub, be able to see the code for the subpooling. We had like two different systems. First one was a little bit inefficient. The second one used Plasma, which was more efficient. And yeah, so if you wanted to right now, you could pull that repo. You could try getting the subpools working, and you could probably set a subpool similar to GetBlock up and running right now if you wanted to. It would be pretty complicated because there's a lot of small things. I didn't get to sort of polish it, so it'd be tough, but it's definitely doable.
That is pretty cool. Well, I hope that somebody does that in the future, because that was always it was a good way to kind of get involved with a token that you liked and mine. And if you wanted to, instead of swapping it on the DEX yourself, you could, utilize the contract that the token you liked, dumped all their things in there to distribute to you. So yeah, it was very, very cool. I do miss it, Cheese. But moving on, happier endings. You are part of a new project that has some pretty cool implications. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Right. So after GetBlock, I've been working on a new project called LITHOS. And LITHOS is sort of, I like to think of it as for the next evolution of GetBlock, and the next step after the kind of work that we did over there. So Lithos's goal is to be a fully decentralized mining pool that is able to support not just Ergo, but other blockchains in terms of being able to pool mining together in a decentralized way. It uses a few cool technologies, some that I developed and some that Kushti even developed. So that's sort of just a general overview of what Lithos is. It's essentially a new way to efficiently deal with hash rate on the blockchain and distribute rewards to miners in a completely trustless manner.
So this allows essentially miners to actually see on the public ledger what they're going to get, what they're expected to be paid, what they were paid, and kind of have that that kind of visibility on that, as opposed to working in some other mining pool where they hold their own non-immutable ledger in their own databases and then pay you out from there at their schedule.
Right, exactly. And I think one thing to specify is that with GetBlock, it was sort of partially decentralized in that the payment system, the way that miners were paid, was decentralized. It was on smart contracts, but the actual calculation of work and the shares and everything, that was stored in a centralized database. So the difference with Lithos is that we're taking the shares, the work that miners perform, we're putting it on the blockchain itself in an efficient way. We're evaluating that work, and then we're paying miners out according to that work using smart contracts. So Lithos is fully decentralized from the ground up. And another important point about Lithos is that the blocks are made by the miners themselves. So miners get access to things like MEV, and there's an inherent censorship resistance in terms of how these blocks are made. Some mining pools in the past have been found to be censoring transactions from certain applications. There's that thing on ETH, I believe. I don't know if that was mining pools, but regardless, the block producers were censoring certain transactions. That wouldn't be able to happen on Lithos because the miners themselves are the ones producing their own blocks and placing whatever transactions they want onto the blockchain.
And how are you storing the data on the blockchain? Are you storing it in some sort of hashed compressed version that's verified off chain? in a bigger database, kind of like Padilla uses AVL trees?
Right. So actually, at ErgoHack 5, we created this concept of a non-interactive share proof, and we proved that it was essentially a way to take only like, say, a handful of shares from a set of, say, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and be able to prove that a miner performed a certain amount of work in an efficient way. So this NISP, or non-interactive share proof, you could essentially create this locally as the miner, and you could submit it to the blockchain in a transaction, and then this NISP could be evaluated on the blockchain in a really compressed and easy to calculate way.
So Lithos is going to be utilizing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And wasn't it called SNISPs?
Yeah, but SNISP is like so hard to pronounce, so I just renamed
What's
it
the
to
first
NISP.
word?
Succinct.
Succinct, yeah.
Yeah.
SNISPs.
It's a mouthful. Too much.
That's really cool. So what's the future look like for this? You're working on this now kind of as a not a main project, but as you have time to code it kind of project?
Right. Yeah. So right now it's more of something for free time. I'm working on Lithos to, try and slowly build it up. It will be sort of a layer 2 solution in terms of how things are going to work. So it's definitely complicated. It might take a bit to fully release, but I'm working on Lithos and in addition Sigmafy. So yeah, it's sort of a side project at the moment, but I'm definitely focused on it. I really want to get it out eventually, because I think it's important to have decentralized option for mining pools.
And will all the ledger will take place on Ergo even with other chains, correct? So if some other proof of work chain wants to utilize Lithos, they're utilizing Ergo in the process, or are you exporting it, outputting it so that it can be actually built on other chains?
Right. So kind of the great part about these NISPs is that it's all really just mathematics and mathematical based. So really, you can create a NISP for any proof of work blockchain. So essentially, with Lithos, you'd be able to mine Bitcoin, produce Bitcoin shares, and then create a NISP out of it and send it to the Ergo blockchain, to a smart contract there, where everything gets evaluated and you get paid to your Ergo address with some sort of wrapped token. For Bitcoin, it'd be some wrapped Bitcoin, maybe Anita BTC or Rosenbridge, whatever it is. You get a wrapped token in return on the Ergo blockchain.
Just wrapping my head around that for a sec. I had a question, but it just flew out of my mind. Oh yeah. So wouldn't you? So there has to be some sort of off-chain bot running on this side to do those kind of comparisons and verifications, I imagine.
Right. So I don't think of it as so much of an off-chain bot. Lithos is sort of like a layer 2 solution. So I'd imagine there'd be, I don't want to say nodes, but something similar to nodes running, like a Lithos reference client that would be running, that would be able to have like a local stratum connection you could mine to, and it would do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the transactions and the verification of the shares and everything like that.
Oh wow! So this Lithos essentially stratum / node or that would be a universal that would then kind of plug in different blockchains. As far as that goes, you'd have base code written in for Bitcoin, but then it'd still be the kind of the same stratum on top of that.
Right. So the stratum would be the same, and then there'd be different ways to deal with different blockchains. Obviously, you would start with Ergo first. That's the easiest, and we're working on Ergo, so kind of makes sense, right?
That's awesome. That's exciting, Cheese. When token?
There is a token with Lithos. No news on when it's going to come out or anything, but for Lithos, we would really like to do a fair launch. in terms of the token is, the overwhelming majority of the tokens will go to miners who mine on LITHOS smart pools. And an important part about this token is that it'll be important for collateralization of mining pools, which is sort of the second half of LITHOS, or NISPs are the first half. And collateralization is essentially what allows for miners to produce their own blocks and for LITHOS to be censorship resistant. So the token will be used for collateralization, and it'll be distributed to miners who mine on LITHOS itself.
I can't wait, Cheese. I want you to quit your job and just work straight on this.
Maybe one day. Consider it.
Maybe one day. All right, Cheese. I think that's it. I really appreciate it. It was great to hear from you and see you. And I haven't talked to you in a long time since Get Block days. But I wish all the best, and please keep us all up to date.
Yeah, great to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Cheese.